Okay, I'm Alessandro Ludovico. I'm the editor-in-chief of Neuro magazine, a magazine about new media art since 1993, so 20 years this year. And also the author of the post-digital print book, which is a book trying to investigate the history and the artist side and industrial relationships between traditional publishing and digital publishing. Nero has also been part of the Magnet Group, which is a network of magazine publishers related to new media arts and technologies, which has also produced 3 readers on this topic. I'm also curating an online exhibition in Jeu de Paume in Paris called Erreur d'impression, which focuses on online artworks dealing with publishing. Beyond that...
That is going on right now, or when is
That is going on right now. It started in October 2012 and it will end in March 2014, so next year.
Yes. And we are here.
Yeah, we are here. The panel was called Paperbound, and it was mixing theoretical and research reflections about paper as medium in various respects. I personally started questioning the real role of paper. I mean, when paper has been questioned as medium, so at the beginning of this massive digitalization of paper, and which kind of practical and also theoretical questions were posed between the more or less in the second half of the 20th century. Then we had guests talking about the paper as a standard medium and what it meant historically to have standard formats which were the same almost all around the world, and what it meant also that there were differences, especially in the early 20th century when the standards were established. Then we have different speakers, and we had speakers talking about the hybridization of the 2 mediums, the paper one and the digital one, and again what it means in terms of publishing. I mean, what's the real role of paper, which is perceived publicly, socially, I would say, especially from what bureaucracy, how bureaucracy use paper, what paper means for social life in a way.
And the notion of the book also was really interesting to see it as an object, and also this level of conceptual layer. Yeah,
especially I remember that one of the definition of media-related definitions of the book is that the book has the killing interface of any other medium, which is probably true also because it's the same interface since almost half a millennium. So we are quite used to that, and it has quite a few very specific characteristics. Its fixity, is
materiality,
materiality. There was one very interesting point out during the panel, which is that it allows you to scan over quite a huge amount of information for its own physical characteristics compared to scrolls, especially. We had also speakers talking about...
But imagine if you compare it now with the search engine, you know,
but it's different. I mean, I've studied that in the book I wrote, and they work differently. For search engines are working extremely well with huge amount of data, but not with your own memory. I mean,
kind of bounded domains.
Because we rely on search engines to find what we need. But once this specific methodology failed for some reason, we are completely lost because the physical space we search is the computer screen. It works completely different with a library. Because in the library we use photographic memory, so we remember where exactly we saw certain information, and we are able to retrieve it. So this is just one of many differences we have between physical print and digital.
And they also brought this idea of process, you know, in which of course, for me, it brings an impossibility of like how you have something procedural and at the same time keep stable the category of object when it can be a relational object. How a lot of the anthropology says, the notion of object is just because we can recognize the fixity of the boundaries. Let's say the cover or the beginning of the end. But process is knowledge, perhaps how knowledge is produced.
Yes, the interesting part is that it's an object which is circulating. Okay. And this creates lots of relational processes. At the same time, if you mix the production of the book with the algorithms, with software, you can have processual created books. Yeah. So the kind of hybrids we were mentioning in the panel, and that
or books that change by themselves, or
eventually, or
generative
books, or classes of books. I mean, there are potentially infinite. There's an infinite potential in creating content through the fixity of books, which, curiously enough, stays and remains as one of the most stable references we have.
Do you think that is a little bit nostalgic in something that may perhaps beg for recategorization, as the whole topic of this meta conference is about? Perhaps we're naming something that is not that anymore.
I think it's not. For one specific reason. If you take a parallel history, which is the vinyl, for example, which now is rising again, it's not because of nostalgia. It's because of its very specific physical and sound qualities. In the case of the book, it's not nostalgia as well, unless you start to be very fetishist about the smell, the tactile qualities of paper and so on. But if you start to see it not as an ancient medium which we would preserve, but as a perfect container of content that could be rethought, that has been rethought and redesigned through centuries, and that now can be even farther rethought and redesigned, then nostalgia just vanishes.
Yeah, I think that the hybridicity is a good word, perhaps, to talk about it, because we may have, one of the things that it was problematic for me was talking about the book, and we are actually talking, it's about epistemology of knowledge. How we actually see the world, create the world, re-embody practices, transmit this in a flow, perhaps. Some kind of that thing that we call knowledge. That is always performative in a way.
Always, I agree, and that's why the hybrid concept. It's crucial because it gives us opportunities for performative actions and stable fixity that we will be able to check in time. So again, it's the combination of the two, and what can arise, what can stems from it, which is for me the most interesting part.
I was in kind of like leading a workshop in Ohio State University in the library a week ago, and there was this topic about how we are perhaps forwarding something that it may be now in the background, that is the books in itself, and they talk even about the building, how then buildings or books are changing, because not even that building that was necessary as the library is actually unbounded. So
that's true. Personally, I've developed a specific concept which is a distributed archive, which is in a way of having to simplify, to really summarize it in a couple of sentences. To have a peer-to-peer library. Physical one, which would be shared and whose catalog would be shared as well. So starting to have a kind of additions to big libraries managed by citizens, which would add officially, publicly to the institutional one, and would at the same time preserve it physically, but share it at least the existence of that digitally.
Yeah.
And this creates this expands the role of public library
Yeah.
to single citizens, to society in general.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly affected with this concept because I think that it's one of the steps that it's possible now because of technologies and would expand the scope of the book and the library itself.
Yeah, and just like to finish, of course it touches, I think that is like the core of the distribution system that have to do with copyrights or let's say the money trail of what happens, because definitely we are in a very, very conflicted landscape, funded by governments, and then you have to pay $15 in digital publications for things that are published in a university.
I have a personal experience with that because the post-digital print book was funded.
Yeah.
I mean, the research and the print was funded. Yeah. So I wasn't expected to make any money out of it. My only aim was that it would have been just distributed. And that's what happened. So we also agreed to have the content available on Creative Commons, and we freely distributed the PDF file before the printed book.
Nice.
I think 2 weeks before the printed book was printed.
Yeah. So that shows your position.
Actually, yes, my position. But again, the book was funded.
Yeah.
So I was already paid for the work I've done. The interesting part is that. After almost 6 months, without any specific pushing, the printed book is almost sold out.
Oh, cool.
Out of 1,000, there are only the publisher has kind of 50 copies.
Nice. So people can download it right now.
People could used to download even before it was available as a print.
Okay.
But even with this parallel existence, there were almost 1,000 people who wanted to buy the printed one for any reason. I'm not saying that would work all the time, of course, but maybe really working in this hybridization, so making printed books that would really be worth to buy, and having them circulating for free digitally would maybe be a way of looking at the book in a more contemporary way.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and of course this is a conversation that should continue.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Thanks to you.